we will continue working on the reading section. We will be continuing looking at the different question types we have. So let's see. All right. So I remember that yesterday we were looking at, well, we did up until paraphrase. No, not paraphrase. We did a purpose questions, right? That was the last thing we did, purpose questions. So today we will continue. Let's take a look at what we have next. So this was the purpose questions. Now we're going to see paraphrase questions. So what are paraphrase questions? In these questions, as the name says, what we're going to do is they're going to ask you to paraphrase or to summarize a sentence from the text. So they want you to choose an option from the answer choices that is the closest one to what you have in the text. So you just have to make sure that the answer choice that you're choosing contains the same information as the original sentence. Okay? So most of the time, there's no need of reading the entire passage. Okay? Because if you do read it, then it can get a little bit tricky. So what you just have to do is look at the options, look at the original sentence, and it shouldn't take you that much time. It's one of the fastest questions, sorry. It's not as frequent as the other ones. Sometimes you get one per passage, and there are cases in which you have none of them per passage. Now, in the passage or in the set that we were working on about the Teotihuacan, I couldn't find any paraphrase questions. There's not one paraphrase question here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be answering the question from another set, okay? The one that we did also yesterday about Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. So this is the one. Sophia, could you please read the question?
Which sentence is most similar to the following sentence from the paragraph 1? The theory is based on the assumptions that life develops from non-life and progress and evolve in an indirect manner.
Okay, thanks, Sophia. So that is the question, right? How do you know that it's a paraphrase question? Because there are two ways. It could be something like this: which sentence is most similar? Or it could be, which is the closest to this sentence? Okay, and that's how you know that it's a paraphrase question. We have the original sentence here. The theory is based on life evolved from non-life and progressed and evolved in an indirect manner. And you have the answer choices here. What you have to do is choose an answer choice that is the closest one to the sentence, to the original sentence. Remember that this is about Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. So just to give you some context, this theory is the theory of evolution, okay, by Charles Darwin. So I'm gonna give you guys 1 or 2 minutes to try to answer this question. Let me know what you think, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, guys, so what do you think? Which
I
option?
think it's
You think it's C, option C?
yes.
Okay, what about the rest?
Me too. Letter C.
Guys, good. Marco, what about you?
Yeah, sí, sí.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the best tip that I can give you here is always focus on the main idea of the sentence. Do not focus too much on the structure or anything else. So what is the main idea? How do you know what the main idea of a sentence is? You always look for the main verb, right? That's how you know what the main idea of a sentence is. So it does require a little bit of knowledge in the grammar part to understand what the subject is, what the main verb is, and what the complement or the predicate is. So in this case, what is this sentence talking about? The theory is based on the assumptions that life, love, and non-life, and progress and evolve in an incorrect manner. What is the sentence talking about? It's talking about what?
The assumptions where the theory is based.
Okay. Exactly. The assumptions that the theory is based on, right?
Mhm.
But in general, this sentence is talking just about the theory of evolution, right? Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. This is the subject of the sentence. What is the sentence talking about? It's talking about the theory. Now, what are we saying about this theory? We are saying that this theory is based on the assumptions that life developed from non-life and so forth. Now, what we're saying about the sentence, that is called the predicate of the sentence. And the verb is usually the action or the state, right? In this case, the verb is based. All of this is the verb, the main verb. You can have more than one verb, right? In this case, we have more: developed, progressed, evolved. Those are verbs as well. But the main verb is going to be the one that is describing what we're saying about the subject. The subject here is the theory, so the main verb is based. Okay? The main verb is based. Okay? Although we have the verb to be as well, because this is in the passive voice. Okay? But this is the main verb. So why am I doing this? Because in order to know the main idea of the sentence, you gotta understand what the main verb is. So the main idea is gonna be related to that. The purpose of this sentence is to explain what the theory of evolution is based on. If you have to ask that could be answered with this sentence, the question would be, what is the theory based on? And then you can answer with this sentence, right? So that is your question. What is this theory based on? The theory is based on the assumptions that life developed from non-life and so forth. So my best tip is look for this verb or for a synonym of the main verb in the answer choices. The answer choice that contains the same main verb is probably going to be the correct one. Because if you guys say option C says, according to Darwin, if we assume that life at its origin was created from non-organic compounds and developed in an unguided manner, his theory holds true. The main verb here is hold. Okay? The main idea of option C is to explain when his theory will hold true, right? If I ask the question, what is the theory of evolution based on? You couldn't answer with option C, right? You couldn't say, according to Darwin, if we assume that life at its origin was created from non-life, his theory holds true. So option C is not answering to the same question as the original. It's talking about something else. Option C is talking about when or in which cases Darwin's theory will hold true. But we don't care about when his theory will hold true. What we care about is what his theory is based on, right? Now, I know that it makes sense in a way, because it is at the end of the day saying kind of the same, right? So if the assumptions are true, then the theory holds true, right? That's what they're saying. And the assumptions are the same that we have in option C and that we have in the original sentence. But the idea or the approach of this option is entirely different, right? The purpose of original sentence is to show what the theory is based on, whereas the purpose of option C is to show when his theory holds true. So it is not option C. There has to be another one that is closer to our original sentence. Which one do you guys think it is?
Letter A.
Exactly.
B.
Letter B, we can prove.
No, sorry, no. A, yeah, right.
Letter A. So if we look at the other ones, option B says, based on certain assumptions, we can prove that evolution occurs in living and non-living entities. So the purpose of, the original sentence is trying to show what the theory is based on, not what we can prove, right? This is the brain verb, and it's not the same. Now, option D says, due to the controversy, it is hard to make assumptions. So option D is trying to say whether it is hard or not to make assumptions about the theory, but that's not the purpose of our original sentence, right? The only option that actually is trying to show what the theory is based on is option A. It says the theory of evolution is founded on evidence, right? So is founded on is a synonym of is based on. So,
Andrea, I have a question. But the center says the theory is based on the assumptions, and the letter A say it's found on evidence. It's not two
okay.
things different.
Yes, you're right. I see your point. So assumptions is not a direct synonym of evidence, right? But I guess
Yeah.
the way to see this is the theory has to be based on certain evidence, right? The evidence are the assumptions. So even if it's not the same, and even if you have this slight difference here, we are not looking for the exact same thing, right? We're looking for the most similar sentence. So option A is not exactly the same. I do agree with that, specifically because of this word, but it is still the most similar option to the original sentence. Because the other ones are not, don't have the same ideas as the first one, right? Everything else is the same, even though it's not said in the exact same way. So it says the assumptions that life developed from non-life. So in this case, we have non-organic compounds as a synonym of non-life. So again, it's not exactly the same, but it's close enough, right? It is related. So non-organic compounds are the basis of life. So life developed from non-life, life developed from non-organic compounds, or non-organic compounds are the basis of life. They progressed and evolved. That means they developed in an indirect or an unguided way. So they are not, indirect is not a direct synonym of the word unguided either, but it is still the most similar one, right? So we're looking for the most similar option that contains the same main idea, the same information as the original one, okay? So in this case, option A would be the correct one. Although I do agree that option C is a little bit tempting because of that word, right? Assumptions versus evidence. But yes. Is this okay? Do you guys have any questions or any other questions?
So in this case, we should focus more in the base verb or the main verb instead of all the rest of the sentence, because I have the same feeling as Sophia about assumptions and evidence. So that's why I get confused.
So yes, you should focus on the main idea, right? Because to be honest, if option A didn't say something like is founded on evidence, even if you had an option that was like option E, let's say, I'm gonna make this. Even if you had an option that says the theory of evolution is founded on certain assumptions about life, about the origin of life, for example. So even if you have an option like this one here, the theory of evolution is founded on certain assumptions about the origin of life, this would still be better than, let's say, option C, for example. Even if it's not specific about what assumptions, right? Because the main idea of the original sentence is not really what the assumptions are. The main idea is just to say or to express what the theory is based on, right? Not what the assumptions are. It would be different if it was approached in a different way. If it was like the assumptions that are the basis of the theory of evolution are that life develops from non-life and progressed and evolved in an indirect manner. That would be a different thing because the focus would be on what the assumptions are rather than what the theory is based on, right? So it all depends on how it is phrased. In this case, yes, I do really suggest that you guys focus on the main verb because the main idea is always in the verb of the sentence.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other question? Okay, guys, let's do another one. Now, the next one we're going to see is pretty straightforward. It's one of the easiest ones I say, and it's the one that should take you the least time. These are called reference questions. Now, you do need to know a little bit of grammar to answer them, but to be honest, it just comes naturally. You won't even think about it, okay? But just to have some context, reference questions are going to ask you about pronouns. So you have to know what a pronoun and what a noun are. Do you guys know what a noun is? So basically, nouns are the names of things, okay? And when I say things, I don't necessarily mean objects, right? It could be people, it could be places, it could be anything that contains a substance. So it could be the name of an idea, the name of a concept, the name of a feeling, the name of a place, the name of a person, the name of a family member, anything like that, the name of concepts, most of all. So for example, a noun would be the word family. That's a noun because we're naming a group of people, right? Family, maybe Pedro is also a noun. Word is a noun. Valencia is a noun. All of those words that are naming something, naming certain concepts are nouns. Now, what is a pronoun? Pronouns are words that can take the place or replace the noun in a sentence. Any noun, right? So, for example, if I say something like, my brother does not like flower, does not like roses, right? And then I say, he is allergic to them, okay? So in this sentence, well, in these two sentences, for example, in the first sentence, I have two nouns. You guys tell me what the nouns are in the first sentence. My brother does not like roses.
Brother and roses.
Yeah.
Two are the nouns. The other things are other types of words, right? We have a verb, we have a possessive, we have a negative, but the nouns are brother and roses. Now, in the second one, I'm not repeating, right? My brother is allergic to roses because that would sound weird. So instead of repeating the same nouns again and saying my brother is allergic to roses, I am replacing those nouns with pronouns. He is a pronoun, and them is another pronoun. They are two different types of pronouns. One is a subject pronoun, the other one is an object pronoun. And there are many types of pronouns, but the important thing is that they are replacing the nouns, right? So instead of saying brother, I'm saying he. Instead of saying roses, I'm saying them, right? So basically what this question will do is they will select or point you out to a pronoun and be like, what does the word them refer to? Your job is to say, well, it refers to roses, right? That's what you guys have to do. Now, obviously, it won't be always that easy. Maybe you have longer sentences. You will have more than one noun in a sentence, more than two nouns. You won't always have the basic pronouns like he, she, we, them. Maybe you have something like this. He's allergic to this. Again, what does the word this refer to? This is still a pronoun. It refers to roses as well. But what they're gonna ask you to do is this. They're gonna take the pronoun and tell you what does this word refer to, and you have to point out to the corresponding noun. Okay, I know that right now it looks a little bit complicated, but you will see that it just comes naturally. You don't even have to do much thinking. So let's take a look at this question. Paula, please, can you read question 5?
Okay. Natural selection, natural selection contributes to the basis of Darwin's theory of evolution. One of the core tenets of Darwin's theory is that more offspring are always produced for a species than can possibly survive. Yet, no two offspring are perfectly alike. As a result, through random mutation and genetic drift, over time, offspring develop new traits and characteristics. Over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene pool, while those that harm survival will be selected against. Therefore, this natural selection ensures that a species gradually improves itself over an extended duration of time. On the other hand, as a species continues to improve itself, it branches out of create entirely new species that are no longer capable of reproducing together.
Okay, Paula, thank you. But I was asking you to just read the question. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you either way. So remember though that when you're answering the questions, you don't need to read the entire paragraph, right? Most of the time you won't have to. So don't waste your time by reading everything and then looking for the question. The way to go is what we talked about, right? Initially, in the beginning, during the first 2 minutes, scan the entire passage, scan the entire text, identify the main ideas in each paragraph, and then you're gonna go question by question, reading the questions first, and then looking for the answers in the paragraph, right? So perfect. Now, in this case, the question says, the word those in paragraph 2 refers to, that's how you know that it's a reference question, because it has the word referred to. So this is the word. I'm gonna give you guys 1 or 2 minutes. I'm gonna give you a hint. You don't need to read everything. And let me know what you think, and then we'll discuss. You guys? Oh, what do you think?
Letter D.
D.
Okay, letter D, traits and characteristics. Do we all agree?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you can see it does not require much thinking, right? It just comes natural. So what you guys have to do for this question, you read the question, the word those in paragraph 2 refers to, and then you look for the word. It's usually gonna be highlighted, so you don't have to like look for the word in the text, but you identify where the word is, and initially you're just gonna read the sentence where the word is. That means we're gonna be reading from starting with a capital letter up until the period. We read this sentence. Over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene pool, while those that harm survival will be selected against. There's a high chance that you guys will find the answer in the same sentence. Okay, there's like 80% chance that you'll find it there. But if you guys don't find the answer there, then you go back one more sentence and you read the previous one. So you will be reading this other one if you didn't find the answer yet, right? And if you still cannot find the answer, then you can go back one more, okay? And that's the way to go. You're gonna be going back sentence by sentence if you don't find the answer. But if you did find the answer in the first sentence, then obviously there's no reason that you should be reading the other ones. Now, in this case, I'm gonna give you very good tips. The first one is before you even read anything, before you start reading the sentences or anything, ask yourself these questions. The good thing about pronouns is that they usually tell you something about the number of the word. That means whether the word is plural or singular, or the phrase, and they also tell you something about sometimes the gender, right? Maybe if it's a female person or a male person, right? So look at, ask yourself those questions. In this case, the word those, is it plural or singular?
Plural.
Plural, right? It has to be referring to more than one thing. It has to be referring to a plural noun. So if we take a look at the options, gene pool is singular, right? Survival is singular. Natural selection is singular. The only plural option that we have is option D, traits and characteristics. So it has to be D. There's no other chance, right? So before you even read, try to see if you can eliminate a couple of options just by knowing if it's plural, singular, maybe, and the gender of the word. Okay, maybe you don't eliminate all of the options like we're doing here. Maybe you have two options that are plural. So maybe we have natural selections. I don't know, right? In that case, you read and you look for the nouns in the sentence. So in this sentence, over time, beneficial traits and characteristics, this is one noun, that promotes survival, this is another noun, will be kept in the gene pool, this is another noun. While those that harm survival, obviously, you're just gonna look for the nouns before the word, right? You won't be looking for anything after. And then you see, what makes more sense, right? Traits and characteristics, survival, gene pool. If you look at this, we have the connector while, which means contrast. So there has to be a contrast between what is mentioned before and what is mentioned after. We have contrasting words, right? Beneficial, harm. Promoting survival, harming survival. So it's a parallel structure. The traits and characteristics that promote survival are kept, while those traits and characteristics that harm survival are selected against, are eliminated, right? So you will see just by knowing the structure that it's something that comes naturally, right? There's not just a way to explain this. You will know because you know most of the time. But you can try to follow those tips, you know, and ask yourself, is this a plural or a singular pronoun? Is it a female or a male gender? So that can help you too. Is it okay? Do you guys have questions about this one?
No, thank you.
No.
Okay. So this is the one I would say that you should spend in the least time, 30 seconds more than enough for this. Let's continue though. Okay, we have to see vocabulary questions now. Now, the reason why I always leave it for the end, well, before the last question, is because with vocabulary questions, to be honest, there's not much that we can do. Okay, there are some strategies that we're going to talk about, but most of the time, vocabulary questions are what they sound like, right? They do require vocabulary from you guys. So these are high frequency questions, as we said on Dante, I think. You have a lot of them in one passage. The good side is that most of the time you won't have to read the entire passage, which means that these are pretty fast. And in a race that we are against time, it's a good thing to have these type of questions that don't require that much time. Now, what they're going to ask you to do in these vocabulary questions is they will point you out to one word, and they will ask you to choose one of the options that is closest to that word. Closest in terms of meaning, so it has to be a synonym of the word. But remember that one word can have more than one synonym, right? So not only does it have to be a synonym, but it also has to it has to fit in the context of the word. Okay, we're gonna see. So, Marco, please, can you read question 2?
Yeah. The word ingenuity in paragraph 2 is closest in meaning to ambition, sincerity, faith, cleverness.
Okay, good. So, what do you guys think? If you know the word that they're asking about, in this case, ingenuity, and you know the word that you have in the options, then this should be something quick. You just choose the option that you know is a synonym of the word, and you go ahead and move on to the next question. You don't need to spend much time here. So do you guys know what ingenuity means? Do you know if one of these options is a synonym of the word?
Cleverness.
Cleverness, okay. Do you guys agree? Is cleverness a synonym of ingenuity?
No, I guess not.
Okay. So Marco, do you have another option in mind? Or you don't?
I think it should be C, faith.
Okay. Okay, so we'll see. First thing you need to ask yourself that, do I know the word? But I don't mean just, do I know the word, but do I actually know the word? Can I use it in a sentence? Have I used it before? Have I seen it before? Because one thing is to think that you know the word because of how it looks, because of what it sounds like. And another thing is to actually know and be completely sure that you know the word, right? So if you guys are completely sure that you know the word, you know that ingenuity is a synonym of faith, or it's a synonym of cleverness, then my best advice is just to choose the option and click on next. Okay, you don't have to spend that much time there. If you know the word, then you just know it, and that's it. But if you guys are not 100% sure, if you're doubting a little bit, then you have to try to see if there's things that you can do to eliminate a couple of options at least. So how do we do that? We start looking at the context. In order to see the context, you have to first be able to identify the main idea it's kind of similar to the purpose questions. Remember with purpose questions, I told you, you have a main idea in the passage or in the paragraph, and every word, every sentence, everything is going to contribute to that main idea in a way. So it's similar to that. In this case, what's the main idea of this paragraph? Take a moment to read. What is this paragraph doing?
It is the, I confused with naive, ingenious, ingenuity. That's it. Yes, cleverness. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, it is D because of meaning, right? Ingenuity means in Spanish, if we translate it, it would mean ingenio, right? It's not ingenuidad. That it sounds like that, but it's not. So it is cleverness. But if we didn't know the word, then if we look at the context, we know that this paragraph is talking about the factors that led to the development of Teotihuacan, right? And then we look at the word ingenuity. It's here. It says the ingenuity and foresightness of Teotihuacan's elite. So what is the context of this word? Basically, we know that the ingenuity and foresightness of Teotihuacan's elite is one of the factors that contributed or led to the development, to the tremendous development of Teotihuacan, right? That's the context that we have. The ingenuity and foresightness of Teotihuacan's elite is one of the factors that led to the development of Teotihuacan. So by understanding that context, you will have a better idea of what options maybe are more likely to be the ones, right? So maybe the fate of the elite, I don't know if that will make that much sense, right? So the elite, the faith of the elite contributed to the development of the place. I don't know, because this is not about religion, right? So maybe it does not make that much sense. But if we say the ambition of the elite, that makes more sense, right? So the ambition of the elite contributed to the development of the place, could be. The cleverness of the elite, that also makes sense. Now, the sincerity of the elite, in this context, it doesn't make that much sense because we're not talking about values or religion, right? So options B and C don't fit too much in the context. Now, if we continue looking at the text, it says the ingenuity and foresightness of Teotihuacan's elite. Do you guys know what foresightness is? If you don't know, remember, I think I said this before, probably in the writing section. One of the quickest ways to expand your vocabulary is by learning the roots, word roots, learning prefixes, suffixes, all of that, right? Because it expands your vocabulary very quick. You know one word, but if you know some prefixes and some suffixes, then you know other words as well. So in this case, foresightness, if you break it down, it's for prefix, side, this is the word root, that-ness, and these are suffixes. You know that the suffix ness basically means that it's a noun, just like cleverness, right? Clever is an adjective, cleverness is a noun, right? Meaning is one thing, meaningless, well, that's another suffix actually. I'm getting confused with less. Okay, but ness, for example, lazy is an adjective, laziness is a noun, right? So you know that this isn't adding any meaning to the word. But if you know, for example, that sight means vista, right? It comes from the verb see. And you know that for is a prefix used to refer to the future, refer to things that are going to happen in the future, right? Like, for example, foreshadowing, forecast, right? The weather forecast is a prediction of the weather. Forecast, foreshadowing. It's related to the future. So if you know that, then you know that foresightness basically is the ability to see the future, the ability to make predictions about the future and to take provisions based on that. So we know that the elite had this ability of making predictions, of knowing what is going to happen and taking care of that. So that's also related to cleverness, right? To being smart, to being clever, to being intelligent in a way. So those are some things that you guys can do to see the context, right? Understand the general idea of the paragraph, understand how this specific word is related to that idea, and try to play with the options until you get to the one that makes more sense. Obviously, you won't be 100% sure unless you know the word, right? Because you're just guessing if you don't know the word, right? You're guessing with some clues, gathering some clues, taking an educated guess, but at the end of the day, it's just a guess, right? There's not guarantee that it will be that option. So the best tip is to always improve your vocabulary. And in case you don't know the word, look at some clues that you have from the context. Okay, guys? Is that okay? What do you think about this question type? Okay, guys, give me a second. I'm gonna plug in my computer, running out of battery. All right, guys, thanks. So, so this is it. These are vocabulary questions. And finally, there's one more. Well, there are two more, but let's see at one of these. Okay. This is the other question type. It's called insert text. Okay, and it is very obvious. What you guys have to do is insert a sentence into the pack. So Alejandra, could you please read the instructions for question 9?
Okay. In paragraph 1 of the passage, there is a missing sentence. The paragraph is repeated below and shows 4 letters, A, B, C, and D, that indicate where the following sentence could be added. In fact, artifacts and pottery from Teotihuacan have been discovered in sites as far away as the Mayan lowlands, the Guatemalan highlands, northern Mexico, and the Gulf Coast of Mexico.
Okay, thank you so much, Alejandra. So that's what they say, right? They say, well, in this paragraph 1, there is a missing sentence. So there's one sentence that's not in the paragraph. Now they say the paragraph is repeated below, and it's 4 letters. You guys will have these four little letters, A, B, C, D, in little boxes, and they give you a sentence. This is the sentence, the one that Alejandra read. Now the question is, where would this sentence, the one that we read, best fit? So if you had to place this sentence in one of these boxes, A, B, C, or D, where do you think it fits best, right? So where would you put it? Would you put it in the place of the first box, option A, the second box, option B, the third box, option C, or the fourth one, option D? Okay, so what you guys have to do is find the place where it belongs. I'm gonna give you guys 1 or 2 minutes to do this sentence, to do this question, sorry. It usually takes a little bit more time than the others, so I'm gonna give you probably 2.5 minutes, and let me know what you think. Then we will see what strategies to use for this question. So what would you guys say? Where would it fit best?
D.
Okay, good. You guys agree?
D.
Option B, all right.
I say D.
Okay, you said D as well, right? Option D, the last one. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, guys. So what do we do with this sentence? With this question? Sorry, I don't know why I'm saying sentence so much. So it has to fit in one of the options, right? Some tips that I can give you. Obviously, you have to look at the content first, right? You have to understand what this sentence is talking about. And you have to look for, you have to start reading the sentences that are surrounding the options and seeing if you can find another sentence that is talking about something related. Because when you write or when you read something in this case, but in the case of the author, when the author was writing this, there has to be a certain continuity, right? It's not like you're writing sentences that are not related to each other. The sentences have to be related. There is a main idea in this paragraph, so the sentences have to flow in a certain way. So what you guys have to do technically is understand the idea behind the sentence, understand what the sentence is about, and look in the options to see if you can find another sentence that talks about the same, right? So that's the first thing, right? In this case, it says artifacts and pottery from Teotihuacan have been discovered in sites as far away as the Mayan lowlands, the Guatemalan highlands, northern Mexico, and the Gulf Coast of Mexico. So basically, the sentence is trying to say that things from Teotihuacan have been found in sites that are really far away from Teotihuacan itself, right? That's the idea of the sentence. You could look for another sentence that says the same or that is related to that, right? If we start looking, option A, we were going to read the sentence before and after it. So before option A, it says, at its height between about AD 150 and 700, it probably had a population. So this sentence is talking about population, right? And that has nothing to do with the fact that things from Teotihuacan have been found in other places. Not related to population at all. So I don't know if it's gonna be A. Does not make that much sense. Then they say it had over 2,000 apartment complexes, a great market and larger industrial workshops. So they are talking about the things that Teotihuacan had, right? Again, this is not related to the fact that things were found in places far away from Teotihuacan. So I don't know if I would choose option A or B. Then they say clearly much planning and central control were involved in the expansion and ordering of this great metropolis. Now, I like this. This is interesting to me because they are mentioning the word expansion, right? They are saying, they're talking about the expansion and ordering of the Teotihuacan. And I know that this is kind of related to expansion, right? Because it's talking about how Teotihuacan was probably expanding to other places. That's why they found artifacts and pottery from Teotihuacan in these other places. Probably because Teotihuacan was expanding to those places. So it is related, maybe I could place it in C, I don't know. Let's continue reading. It says, moreover, the city had economic and perhaps religious contacts with most parts of Mesoamerica, modern Central America, and Mexico. Now, this makes more sense, right? Because it's talking about the contacts that the city had with other parts of Mesoamerica. And if we look at this sentence here, they are talking about the other parts of Mesoamerica, right? The Mayan lowlands, the Guatemalan highlands, northern Mexico, the Gulf Coast of Mexico. So it's related, right? If you guys think about it, this is some sort of evidence that Teotihuacan had contacts with these other parts of Mesoamerica. So yes, I do agree with you guys. It should be placed in option D because we know that, first of all, these sentences are related. And second, this seems to be the evidence to prove that the Teotihuacan have contacts with other parts of Mesoamerica. So that is technically what you guys have to do, right? Look for the contact. Now, some good tips that I can give you to avoid wasting too much time and maybe to do this faster. First thing, pay attention, pay close attention to any transition words that you have, okay? Because transition words, what they do is they tell you the relationship between sentences, right? That's what transitions do. So if you have however, then you know that it's a contrasting relationship. That's the sentence that you have has to be contrasting to the previous one. So you're looking for the opposite of what you have. If you have moreover, for example, then you know that it has to be an addition to the previous sentence. If you have, for example, then it has to be an example. So pay attention to any transitions that you have because they will let you know the relationship between sentences. In this case, the transition, in fact, it is used to give an explanation and to provide evidence, right? When I say, I don't know, I could say something like, let's say, I am really good at math. In fact, I don't know, I got a perfect score in this math test, right? So the reason why I'm saying in fact is because I am showing evidence of what I said before. So that should give you an idea that what you have here has to be evidence of some of the previous sentence. So you need to ask yourself, so what could the fact that artifacts and pottery of Teotihuacan have been found in these places be a proof, be an evidence of what? In that case, then you know that it has to be this, right? Another good tip that I can give you guys is identify and ask yourself, is the sentence general or is it specific? If the sentence is some or contains specific information, then it's usually gonna be towards the end of the paragraph. Most importantly, most of the time, the two sentences go together. It's like you have one idea and then you have the explanation. You have one idea, you have the explanation. So in this case, this is a very specific sentence, right? It's talking about very specific places. It's mentioning very specific sites. It's not just a general idea, right? Artifacts and pottery from Teotihuacan have been found in different sites. No, it's mentioning what specific sites. So that means that it has to be after something. It has to be the explanation, the details of a previously mentioned idea. So you have to find that mentioned idea. So those should be, those could be some tips that I can give you. Look for any transitions you can find, see how that tells you the relationship among ideas. See if it's a specific or a general idea that you have in the sentence. If it's something general, then it's gonna be before something, right? It's gonna be towards the beginning of it. If it's something more specific, then it's gonna be towards the end. And look at the content. What is this sentence about? And look for another sentence that is related to the same topic, right? In this case, they are talking about the contacts that Teotihuacan had with these other places. So it has to be this sentence here, right? It could be before or it could be after, but in this case, you know that this is an explanation of something that comes before it, right? So it has to be after this sentence. It does take some time to answer these questions, so that's why you have to be fast when answering the other types, right? When you answer vocabulary questions, paraphrase questions, detailed questions, you gotta do it faster so that you have enough time for these other types. Is that okay, guys? Do you have any questions now? Before we go?
No, thank you, Andrea.
No.
Okay, guys. And please, before you go, today we actually have to fill out 2 surveys. So I'm please sending you the first one. And when you guys are done with this one, I'll send the other one as well. Okay. I'm just missing one response. All right, anyways, I'm sending the other one as well, please. And I will see you guys tomorrow. We just have one more question to see. Summary questions, the last one. And tomorrow we will practice with a different set. Okay, we'll do an entire set of questions.
Yeah, in the case of the writing for the third option, that was the academic writing, would you give us a homework to do it or something like that?
It's gonna be the one that we did in class. I'm gonna be sending you feedback on the one that we did in class on Friday.
Okay, okay.
Okay, guys, then I'll see